give your community this, or we're going to extract this from your community, or we're going to exploit your community in other ways. And the other thing that kills me, you know, a lot of people wringing their hands saying, oh my God, we can't do this because we're going to get sued and everything else. You know, there's going to be 10,000 lawsuits. We got to get used to that. And sometimes the lawsuits are good because it means you're hitting the bullseye. You're actually hitting the target. That's why they're feeling the need to come after you. So it's actually proof that you're doing something real, that you're actually making structural change of some sort. The other thing that kills me is in some ways the liberal, progressive community has not been one of the primary communities doing community rights work. It's basically been affected people within communities who are on the receiving end of these projects going. And I'm always amazed at the talk of the liberal, progressive, conventional, traditional, liberal, progressive, and big environmental groups. They talk about things like, well, we just want a seat at the table, right? You know, when the corporation brings something in, we just want a seat at the table. We want our voices heard about what our concerns are about this stuff. Well, my answer to that is, we own the fucking table. Right? We decide who gets a beverage and who gets utensils and who can sit at the table, but it's our table. That's what this country's supposed to be about, that we're it. We are the primary, fundamental, highest decision makers. That's what the we the people stuff is all about. Thank you. Right? But somehow we've lost that historical memory about who we were, right? This country is founded in revolution. And it's revolution against, all the bad hierarchical stuff that came before. And we need to rediscover that, because if we don't, we're cooked. I mean, there's no other way to put it. We always try to find every reason to do something else under the sun or work within the existing system. We've asked what can we get under the existing system for so long that we've forgotten to ask what do we need? Or what do we want? Right? We forgot that lingo. And I think what's exciting to me in doing these travels, I just got back from Oregon where we did a seven city type of tour out there as well, is that there are people standing up who are willing to do what the abolitionists did in the 1840s and what the suffragists did in the late 1800s, is not take no for an answer and to write your own script. It's time for us to write our own script rather than waiting for the script to come down to us. And it's also to understand that in some ways these are about municipalities and communities confronting and directly challenging the law, in some ways by breaking it. Because if corporate rights is the law, these communities are breaking the law. But breaking the law is what movements do. The suffragists, for example, Susan B. Anthony, or the early suffragists, when they were told they couldn't vote, you had some of them running into the voting ballot places and carrying their ballot, running past the elections official, and then dunking it in the ballot box to say, I voted, right? And then they would haul them away and have a trial, right? But they understood the need to break the law, because when you break the law, it allows people to see what the law is, and how it's structured, and how it's unjust and illegitimate. And I think that's a very, very important thing that we need to learn from those prior movements. So to finish up tonight, we've come through a path and a journey that other communities have traveled with us. I think leadership has basically been given by those movements themselves, by those communities themselves, who have begun to push an envelope that I don't think traditional, conventional institutions are capable of in the United States today. We understand that constitutional change is necessary, that the only thing that actually does that structural change is movements of massive numbers of people that build, and that we need to fully understand the problem, we need to frame a solution, and we need to get to work. Because it's going to take 10,000 communities across the United States to actually push this kind of change to happen. And I want to leave folks with a quote from one of my favorite writers. His name is Sam Smith, and he wrote a book called Why Bother? Which I think afflicts us all some mornings when we wake up and just say, my God, things are so bad, where do we start? I don't know where to start, it's so big, I'm just going to go watch bad television for the rest of the day and forget about where we are. Well, Sam wrote this quote, it's what ends his book, this Why Bother book, and he said, quote, our predicament makes life simpler. We have clearly lost what we had lost. We can give up our futile efforts to preserve the illusion and turn our energies instead to the construction of a new time. It is this willingness to walk away from the seductive power of the present that first divides the mere reformer from the rebel. Above all, we must understand that in leaving the toxic ways of the present, we are healing ourselves, our places, and our planet. We rebel not as a last act of desperation, but as a first act of creation. Thank you.
Tish has agreed to moderate the Q&A. I'm not chickening it out, it's just that I didn't get home till after 2 o'clock in the morning last night. So I'm exhausted, but thank you, Tish.
Thanks. Before we get to that, I just wanted to, in case some of the people in this room aren't familiar, I know Youngstown, you're very familiar with the work that has gone on here 5 times. And we salute you for that. But around the state, I don't know if you're aware, there's other places. Medina and Fulton County are working on county charter bills of rights to fight the Nexus pipeline. Athens and Meigs County tried to get a charter bill of rights on the ballot about the injection of waste in their counties and protecting their water. Columbus worked on a Bill of Rights, gathering signatures. They collected over 13,600, and that wasn't quite enough. Broadview Heights, where I'm from, we keep fighting in the courts, but the courts won't even let us in the courtroom to let us make our argument. So, and basically, we're invisible. I'm one of the invisible people in Broadview Heights. And Portage County, Lucas County, they're also considering bills of rights. And one of the things Thomas mentioned was about more people and people being afraid. The industry very much wants you to be afraid, especially of the lawsuits. And that's why the Broadview Heights case, the Monroe Falls case, you'll hear those thrown out. And they want you all to just go away, to go home. Don't even try it, because we've already settled this. And that would be the worst thing you could do. We need more communities to step forward and take this on and take the challenge. So that's all I'm going to say right now, but I want to, before we start taking, we don't have that much time, maybe only 20 minutes, I think. Please limit this to questions, not stories, so I will come around. I know everyone has a story, and the local group is Frag Free Mahoning. There's plenty of people that are part of that group here this evening. Also, we have Common Sense that I think we passed out that has my information in it, how to contact me and the Ohio Community Rights Network, so feel free to email me, call me, and get with the local community group. Susie is part of the group. She's also on the National Community Rights Network board. She's a board member, and she's also on the Ohio Community Rights Network board. So is Heidi, is on the Ohio Community Rights Network, and Gwen Fisher is here from Portage County. So. John. Oh, and John's back there. Hi, John.
We have these for people to...
Oh, sign-up sheets in the back. If you want to put down your contact information, you will get our flyers, our mailers, our e-blasts, so you know what's going on. So, anyone have a question? Okay, Ray.
This is slightly tangential from what you've been speaking about, but evidence has come out that Exxon has had in their laboratories, in their own research, shown that they knew about climate change, and now they've been actively trying to suppress that, and now people are looking at sort of RICO lawsuits against the corporations for doing that, similar to what they did with the tobacco. I don't know, could you sort of comment on that approach?
Well, nothing we haven't seen before in many ways, but it's all good, but a lot of times even those RICO lawsuits operate within the same structure, traditional system of law. And so you're assuming that the corporation has certain rights that it can use to defend those lawsuits, even when you bring them. And so it leaves intact the system of law, structure of law, and we really have to dismantle that first at some point. But it's all good. People coming around and understanding how the system actually functions. With the tobacco companies, there was less than meets the eye because they signed the Master Tobacco Settlement Agreement, which actually gave the tobacco companies, in some ways, more power and authority than they had previously. So we have to be careful about how all this stuff transpires. But I do think there's a new awareness beginning to build about that type of activity and behavior. So I think that's good.
I wish you'd comment about issue 2 in Ohio. Most people think of that as simply that we don't want corporations in our Constitution. but we know that there's a lot more to it, and I would like to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, issue 2 was drafted in response to the marijuana legalization effort in Ohio. And they wrote it in such a way to go after monopolies by painting the legalization of marijuana initiative as creating monopolies. It's going to create problems in the future for a bunch of initiatives that may begin to overlap into some of the area of issue 2. However, the state constitutional amendment stuff I don't really see as affected by that, at least our work at the state level. Probably going to draw an extra lawsuit, but it's pretty clear to me that it doesn't really apply to the state amendments that we're attempting that communities are attempting to run.
This is why Ray had me do this so they can.
Phil, Don?
Hi, my name is Philip Marian. I'm a student here. There was the Million Student March today across the country. I'd just like to hear your take on that movement, and if it's something you think is, I don't know, not like in so many words, like worth looking into. Like, is that movement something you think is working along the same lines as what you spoke about tonight?
I don't know, really. I do know that we seem to be stuck in this protest politics mode, which is almost all defensive and operates under the doctrine or the belief that we have a democracy, so all we have to do is motivate enough people within it to actually drive change. But a lot of that is about focusing in on core decision makers and trying to influence those core decision makers on certain things, which is like the antithesis of democracy. It's almost like pretending we have no agency in our own demise, and instead the best we can do is try to convince someone else to do something to save us. And so, Derek Jensen, he's an author, Pacific Northwest. Folks may not know his name here, but he's a friend of mine. And he talks about the need to give up hope that anybody's going to step in and save us. That hope is a bad thing, because hope is about hoping that a regulator is going to step in and save us, or an elected official is going to step in and save us. Derek makes a joke, he says it's about hoping that beings from Alpha Centauri are going to beam down and actually save us from the frack job that's proposed or something. That when we give up hope, we actually turn to ourselves and our neighbors and say nobody else is going to fix this except for us. And that's what gives birth to the work, which is an understanding that it's not our job to influence people, it's our job to make the law. And actually making the law is the only thing that's going to change things. So.
Thanks for coming to speak to us. You're just fantastic. I wanted to ask about, I know there's been talk around the community here about expanding our campaign to countywide. And I just wondered, we were talking about that at the polling place the other day, what jurisdiction does the county have? What experience have you had with countywide referendum in relation to environmental issues?
There's been a couple county initiatives. I mean, Moore County was the first in New Mexico to actually go to that level, but you're talking about relatively untrodden ground. I mean, this is all new stuff. And of course, the 4 counties in Ohio that put forward new charters. I mean, basically, you're talking about turning your counties into home rule counties. And to do that and have any lawmaking power at the county level, you have to write new charters and go through that process. And 4 counties attempted to do that, and then challenges were brought, protests were brought to those charters. It went through the Secretary of State's office. The Secretary of State attempted to deny them on one of the grounds